Hey there, lovely world hearts. It's Lisa here. How you doing? It's the middle of July as I'm recording this message, and I'm coming in to give you some updates, talk about housekeeping, talk about where I'm going with stuff. So many changes, just so many changes. And hopefully I'm role modeling that to you. I'm role modeling how to navigate change when you're stuck or you feel like you're entering unknown waters. And we will pull some cards today from this deck, SelfCare Wisdom Cards by Cheryl Richardson. This is a beautiful deck. This is a new deck for me. So you may have noticed that I haven't been online for a while. I've been having a break from the online world because I feel as a highly sensitive person that being online, particularly on Facebook and Instagram, rattles my nervous system. I think I struggle with the lack of engagement because I feel heartbroken and quite crestfallen when I put a lot of energy into my posts and my content, which everybody does. That's what content creators do, but you don't get anything back. And you can see people are looking at the post, but they don't give it a like or just put heart, put an emoji in the comments, which reminds me, can you like this video? And well, you can talk to me in the comments. What I really would like to do, I've been struggling to find a community. And so I thought, well, I'll create one. I was looking for a community that had sensitive people, that were introverted, that were creative, and that were following their dreams, really. And yeah, but I just couldn't find one. So I thought, well, I'm going to create one. But I struggle with that because a lot of my followers don't engage. All right. I just want to say from the off that I'm not judging that because there could be many reasons why people don't engage. But this has been going on for a long time and I've given it a lot of thought. And with my detective hat on and reading between the lines, because a lot of the people that follow me come from similar situations to me. So for those of you that don't know me, I am recovering from complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I am estranged from my family of origin, most of it. And I've been healing for about 20 years. And creativity has kind of been my, has been the magic source, has been the medicine to soothe me, particularly writing and journaling. So that's what I teach now. But if you've been following me for a long time, you'll know that I started out my journey with working with children. And that's how I met my inner child. And that was part of my healing journey. So I've been in this game for a long time. And I just remember, I was thinking the other day, how enthusiastic and how excited I was when I first set up my business, how I had all these ideas and my brain was zinging and I really wanted to make a difference in the world, particularly to the lives of the children and the families I work with. But what nobody tells you about this job is when you're working with other people's trauma, one, you have to really up your self-care, which is why I've got the self-care deck today to look at our self-care together. And I'm going to model it to you. I'll be honest about where I fall down on my self-care and where I could do better. But it's not an opportunity to beat yourself up either. But when you're working in other people's trauma, it is like you're walking into a burning building without any protective clothing on, which is why you need to learn how to manage your energy, how to have really strong boundaries, how to put sessions or the actual coaching in a container. So if you go to therapy, that's a one-to-one, that's a 60-minute slot or a 50-minute slot with a therapist. In my world, I don't do face-to-face coaching anymore because it's too much for my sensitive nervous system. So I do WhatsApp coaching, which I call pocket coaching. And actually that works really well for my clients as well because they don't like the intensity of face-to-face and they like the time in between sending messages or voice notes. It works really well and I've had lots of positive feedback around it. And that kind of came off the back of other developments in my life where I wasn't able to coach at home. So if you have been watching my videos, you know that we've got the builders in. That's not a euphemism. Oh no, it's the painters, isn't it? But yeah, it's all been a bit chaotic and mental, but I feel now that this is all divinely orchestrated by spirit, and I got to the point where I felt like I was smashing my head against a brick wall. I was tired, I was getting close to burnt out, Always when you're feeling frustrated and something feels heavy and difficult, I think that's a sign to take a step back and regroup, or to just let it go. I finished my last episode of my podcast, the Wildheart Diaries, recently. And so I found another platform. Now, I know I have pivoted a lot. I've been trying to find my place in the online world, a place where I can meet like-minded souls, people that are highly sensitive, introverted, creative, who want to follow their dreams, but also a place where we can come together and we feel safe enough to share, and a place where I can give of myself in a way that works with my strengths, really, so I can be the best support person, the best teacher, the best educator possible. I think a lot of people that followed me for years may stop following me, but I'm okay with that, because maybe we've outgrown each other and we're not a good fit anymore. But what I wanted to talk to you about today, and I'm going to see if I can find it in this book. I want to talk to you about functional freeze, because I have a feeling, and this came up before when I was coaching families. A lot of the families were bringing their kids to me because the parents were in functional freeze. Functional freeze is one of the 4 trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Freeze, I'm going to read to you what Pete Walker, in his brilliant Bible, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. I'm going to read to you what he says about freeze. It's the hardest one to treat. It's the least likely one to come forward for help or for support or for therapy. It's always, in my experience, and I'm sure there are exceptions to the rule, but this is my experience of coaching people through trauma, it's always the most sensitive person in the family who gets into therapy first, because they're absorbing, they've got no boundaries, they're absorbing all the pain, they're absorbing all the emotions, they're absorbing all the unspoken stuff. Probably, if you're a child in that family, that sits between the 2 parents. That's my experience from a decade of coaching kids and families. Yeah, I think that's what happens. So what happens is the parents who were bringing their children to me were cut off, emotionally cut off, which is what freeze is. Well, I'll get into that in a minute, but let's just say people who are in freeze can be very emotionally cut off themselves, what we call dissociated, checked out. And what that means is that sensitive child is not getting their emotional needs met, which is why the child is then absorbing and picking everything up. So when I pivoted my business from working with families to working with adults, it wasn't any great surprise that 300 out of the 2,000 people that followed me only came across with me to start my new business. So that shows you like what a high percentage of people, I mean, there could be other reasons for people not following, but just let's go with this story, because I have thought about it a lot, because it was frustrating me. I was like, why don't people reply? Why don't people engage? Because they're in functional freeze. Freeze feels like, for me, because I'm a freezer, so I understand. But I've done enough work on myself, and I know myself well enough how to bring myself out of freeze. I know when I'm in it, sometimes I want to go there. I'm not shaming anyone or judging anyone. Sometimes I let myself go there because it's familiar to me and that's what feels safe. So Pete Walker says, the freeze type and the dissociative defense. I don't think he writes in therapeutic jargon, so I think it's going to make sense. He says the freeze response, also known as the camouflage response, often triggers a survivor into hiding, isolating and avoiding human contact. So you don't want to be seen. That's why people aren't engaging online. Whether you're aware of it or not, you don't want to be seen. You don't want to be known. It feels unsafe to be you. That makes me sad when I say that, but that's the truth. The freeze type can be so frozen in the retreat mode, it seems as if their starter button is stuck in the off position. So for me, it feels like you've got 1 foot on the gas and 1 foot on the brake. So the foot on the brake is like all of the spiraling thoughts, the catastrophizing, the mental circus that goes on where maybe you're having obsessive thoughts, intrusive thoughts, or very negative thoughts. Or your inner critic is very inflamed and loud and negative and you can't turn it off. And then the freeze bit is the body. So you come out of the body because you can't be in the body. You're up in the head, but this is all very numb. He says of the 4 Fs, fight, flight, freeze and fawn, or friend, some people call it, these types seem to have the deepest unconscious belief that people and danger are synonymous. So if, like me, you came from an abusive home, whether that was psychological, emotional, sexual or physical abuse, you will have an unconscious belief your inner child will be always hypervigilant and scanning for danger. So I understand, because I am a freezer too. So please understand that I am not trying to make anyone wrong or call anyone out. And I certainly don't want to force people to engage and comment on my posts if they feel in danger and they feel like they need to hide. I would not want to do that to people, but I don't know how we take that forward, but maybe we can talk a bit more about that today. While all the 4F types commonly suffer from social anxiety, so fight, flight, freeze and fawn all suffer from social anxiety, freeze types take a great deal more refuge in solitude. So if you're like me, I need a lot of alone time. And it's not just because I'm an introvert and I recharge by being alone. It's because people and, you know, and danger are... They come hand in hand. I see the world as a dangerous place, or my inner child sees the world as a dangerous place. My inner adult does not. Some freeze types completely give up on relating to others and become extremely isolated. Outside of fantasy, many give up entirely on the possibility of love. Hi. I haven't given up on you lot though. Just saying. It's often the scapegoat or the most profoundly abandoned child, the lost child, who is forced to habituate to the freeze response. So you're not allowed to successfully employ a fight, flight or fawn response. So you have to check out. So think of it as a child, you're in a chaotic household, perhaps there's lots of conflict, maybe there's violence, perhaps there's emotional violence and manipulation. You can't get away from that as a kid. So what do? You check out and leave your body. Recovery for freeze types involves 3 key challenges. First, their positive relational experiences are few, if any. I have to say that I've got a small group of close friends and they are strong friendships. And I also gravitate towards mentors, because obviously having a good trauma therapist and having people who are older than me, who I trust, you can foster relationships that way. I mean, often, to be honest, the inner child is looking for a parental type figure. So, you know, but again, how do you feel? What do you need? Take care of your needs. Here we go. They are even less likely to seek the aid of therapy. Moreover, those who manage to overcome this reluctance often spook easily and quickly terminate their therapy. So yeah, they might get triggered by the therapist. So this used to happen with me, with the families and the kids. A parent would get triggered by something I say or something the child is feeding back that, you know, causes alarm or makes them feel unsafe. And because they're unaware of it, this is all happening unconsciously, they go AWOL. So they don't come back to me and say, Lisa, my child is saying this, I'm feeling like this, let's talk about it. So absolutely terrified of anything that feels like conflict or anything that feels confrontational, actually. But even deeper than that, I don't even think they're aware that they're doing it. They just disappear. I can't tell you the number of clients I had that would book 12-week coaching programs and only not even complete half of them. And they're spending a lot of money with me and they just abandon it halfway through and never come back. They'll probably say it's the child that doesn't want to come, but I put money on the fact that it isn't that at all. But they don't know. So you don't know what you don't know. So again, you can't. But I think with the freeze type, because you're so disconnected from your feelings, it can feel like you're in denial about stuff, and it can feel like you're sort of cut off and there's a bit of a wall there. Maybe even that you're experiencing the world from a distance, or like you're seeing it through cling film is how I want to describe it. I'm just talking from my own experience here. But remember, there's a child inside of you that is seeking safety. So they're less likely to seek therapy and more likely to terminate, go AWOL. Second, freeze types have two commonalities with fight types. They are less motivated to try and understand the effects of their childhood traumatization. Now, this isn't true for me because I have got a really strong flight response. I've got a busy brain and I'm very, very curious and I'm a lifelong learner. So if anything, I wanted to understand it more. So I think I sit on the sort of boundary of flight and freeze. And then in certain relational situations, I'll be a fawn responder. Many are unaware that they have a troublesome inner critic or they are in emotional pain. Furthermore, they tend to project the perfectionistic demands of the critic onto others rather than onto themselves. Yeah, so they'll be very judgmental and critical of other people, but actually that's their inner critic that they're disowning and projecting it out. So if you find yourself being like that with other people, you might not verbalize it, but it's a process that's happening in your head, because you can go, well, that's too painful to know that that inner critic exists inside of me. So I'm going to say, oh, it's Jenny. She's really messy, or she does this or she does that, you know, like just judging and criticizing. Because also remember, when the inner critic is flamed, it is looking for danger. It's hypervigilant. You're constantly scanning for danger, things that aren't right, things that might go wrong. I hope this is making sense. Let me know if it is. Yeah, so the third, even more than the workaholic flight type. So I am a workaholic flight type. Freeze types are in denial about the life-narrowing consequences of their singular adaptation. Some freeze types that I have worked with seem to have significant periods of contentment with their isolation. All those that can relate to that say I. I think they may be able to self-medicate by releasing the internal opioids that the animal brain is programmed to release when danger is so great that death seems imminent. So, you know, when you're going into survival mode, your body is shutting down. It feels like it's not going to get any more resources, any more air. So it literally is like a camouflage sniper. It just goes into complete, still, don't make a noise, don't say anything, don't do anything. But functional freeze, so this is where we get to functional freeze. It's really hard for you to notice it because, and this is what I did all the time as a child, you might go into the world and mask up. You might go into the world and paint on a big space, a big smile on your face. I said to my therapist recently, I have to be on all the time. And that's exhausting for me because I'm not being myself. I'm still wearing a mask. So quite recently I've had to go out and get some part-time work. So I've got 3 part-time jobs at the moment, and it involves being out in the world a lot, which I wasn't before. I was very much in here, but I can't be in here as much. So I'm being forced out by the universe that's saying, there is a peach-shaped hole in the cushion on your sofa, Lisa, and you need to get out into the world. Yeah, what was I saying? I've totally lost my train of thought now. I can't remember what I was saying. It will come back. It will come back eventually. There you go. Just checked out because I've said something. I don't know where I am. So yeah, so I think a lot of the people that follow me are probably functional freeze or fawn or flight responders. It's unlikely that I would have fight responders on here. They're the ones that attack me and make dickish comments, so I just block them and delete them. You know, I don't tolerate any of that on here. So no, yeah, I wouldn't have a fight responder on here. So I don't know if that makes sense, but what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to offer you empathy, and I'm saying I understand why you might not engage. I also understand that I'm talking about controversial subjects. You might not want that showing up on your feed. I don't know if you know, but if you like videos, you can actually you'll have a playlist of liked videos on YouTube. You can actually make that private so other people can't see what videos you've liked. So I don't know if that helps at all. But what I find is a lot of people will slide into my DMs or send me emails, which is lovely. And I'm grateful for the connection, but I really want the connection to happen online, because what happens is when we share our stories and we share our feelings and our thoughts or our opinions on things, we make it safe for other people to share. So we need to kind of take a big step and do that. I do understand, but like, in order to create this community and help people, I really do need people to meet me halfway. And to be really honest with you, I think that's why I get burnt out, because if we were in a relationship, which I know we're not, it's a, what's it called? A parasocial relationship. If we were in a relationship, I feel like I'm doing all the heavy lifting and all the work. And you know, then I get resentful, or I pull back, or I set boundaries, or I stop posting as much. I mean, I wouldn't be so harsh as to say, and maybe I should be, setting a boundary and saying, if you don't engage, there's not going to be any more content. Then there isn't a business. Then I'll just have to get on with my free part-time jobs and see where the universe takes me there. I don't say that as a threat. I'm saying that as like, what else am I going to do? I've tried for years to get people to talk to me, and I don't want to force people, but I do want to highlight it, because I do think if you are a functional freezer, that this is your opportunity to heal, even though Pete Walker's saying it's the hardest thing ever. I mean, the thing that would sort of bring someone to therapy if you're a freeze responder is a death, a loss of a loved one. Some significant major life change that would mean that you couldn't carry on with your maladaptive coping strategies or your protective coping strategies, which we all have. So a functional freeze responder is likely to want to stay small, put other people first, not make a fuss, you know, all that kind of just keeping really small so no one can see you, because it's just too dangerous to let your energy get big and see yourself. And no one more than me understands how hard that is and what that feels like. And I feel emotional as I'm saying that to you, because that is me and I totally get it. But I'm going to be brave, and I'm being brave and coming on here and talking to you every time I switch the camera on, every time I post on social media. Just because I'm a life coach, it doesn't mean that I don't have all those thoughts and feelings. I'm a human being who's recovering from a significant amount of trauma. So please know that I'm on your side, and any comment that you make, as long as it's not unkind or derogatory or rude, will always be accepted here. Any question you want to ask will always be accepted here. You will always be welcome here, because also I understand what it's like when you're in your family of origin and you feel like you don't belong and you feel like you're not accepted. I understand that, and I don't want anyone to feel like that on this page. But I can't keep showing up if you don't meet me halfway. So I hope sharing about the functional freeze and me saying to you that I understand how that feels. And even if you just like the video, or even if you don't know what to say, but what I'm saying resonates with you, because also this helps me work out what content I need to make for you, because there's so many things I could be chatting about. And I can see on the most popular videos on here, the things that people want to talk about are estrangement, right? They are energy management for highly sensitives, you know, like grounding and protecting your energy, dealing with conflict, dealing with tricky people. Because as highly sensitives, we attract people like that unless we've got our boundaries down. And that's difficult, right? All of that stuff. I want to talk more about that. But if you don't tell me what you like and you don't engage with me, I'll probably just go off on a tangent and just talk about whatever I feel like. And then again, that's not a community, because I want to co-create with you. I want to have a collaborative approach. So I think I found a way for us to communicate that feels safe. I don't know. So again, you'll have to tell me if this feels right for you. And you know, I can't do everything that everyone wants. There'll be people that won't like the direction I'm taking and they'll leave, and that's fine. And look, there's no hard feelings, right? If it's not right for you, you have to go. But it's not an airport, so you don't need to announce your departure. But you know, just go quietly and say thank you for, and I say thank you for the time you have been here. And I like hanging out with you. I always have done. Yeah, it's just sometimes talking to an empty room is just soul destroying. Like I don't have the energy, and I'm a really positive person, but I don't have the energy to keep doing it. Right, so one might ask you, why am I on here today? Because this is kind of like my last ditch attempt to say, come on, let's give this a go. So I found a platform called Substack. I don't know if you know about Substack. And I've called myself, so I've done a bit of rebranding, and I've called myself the Intuitive Writer, This is it on my iPad, or you can't really see it on there. But you'll find me on Substack. I'll put a comment. I'll put a link in the description box below so that you can follow me if you like. And I'm calling myself the intuitive writer. And I'm saying that, you know, this is my quiet corner of the internet, and I write from my intuition about whatever wants to come through. I write for curious, wild-hearted souls and spiritual detectives who are navigating this crazy life with a sensitive heart. And I just want to read you some of the things that I wrote today in a letter that went out. So if you're on my newsletter list, then you will have got this letter today. And then I will wrap this up and we'll start pulling some cards. And maybe we'll ask the cards about what we need if we're functional freezers. And see if I can offer you some tips if you're interested in healing. But the biggest thing when you're a functional freezer, which is why you have to go to therapy, is you need someone to help you co-regulate, because you can't regulate yourself. Because if you're stuck in a freeze, you need someone to help bring you back up to safety. And freeze is down here, and fight and flight is here, and safety is up here. In order to get from freeze back up to safety, you've got to come back through fight or flight. So that might feel uncomfortable, which is why you need someone like me, or a trauma therapist, or somatic body worker, or someone like that that can bring you back online until you can learn to do that for yourself. I mean, to be honest with you, being dissociated might just be so comfortable to you. It is to me. It's where I hang out, where I have hung out a lot of the time. But now I'm back in the outside world, which is why it dawned on me that this might be the case for you as well. I realise how tiring it is for me to be on with the mask all the time, and then I come home and I just fall asleep. It's almost like I've got narcolepsy. I haven't, but I come home and I sit down, I have a cup of tea, I don't even finish it, I just nod off. And I nod off for about 20 minutes. And then when I come to, my tea's cold, unfortunately, but I feel like I'm starting the day again. And it's like all of that mask switching on and everything that's tired me out has left my body. I do ground and protect my energy every day before I leave the flat. And I do rituals, cleansing rituals when I get home. The other day when I was in the shop, I had a piece of tourmaline in my bra top. I just put a tiny piece of tourmaline for protection in my bra top, because you're engaging with loads of people's energy all day long, and you know, not everyone's got good energy hygiene. It's like being in a room full of people that aren't wearing deodorant in energetic terms. So today I had a song which just came into my head. So it was very intuitive, and it came in at the beginning of the day when I was making my bed, and it stuck with me. And that the song was kind of like the beginning of the post. So it's a song called Wild Women Do by Natalie Cole. And it's from the film Pretty Woman. So I don't know if you know it, but I'm just going to read you the lyrics. It says, "Wild women do and they don't regret it. Wild women show what they're going through. Wild women do what you think they'll never. What you only dream about, women do. Wild women do." I love that. So I can't play it on here because I'll get a copyright strike. But go and look that song up on Spotify or on YouTube, it'll probably be. It's such a great 80s banger. But I don't think the film Pretty Woman has aged particularly well, because it's, you know, we don't really go for the whole knight in shining armour rescuing us from a tower, do we? We're all rescuing ourselves nowadays, saving ourselves, which is right, which is healthy. But in the song, Natalie Cole sings about if you're a wild woman, you've got to travel in the danger zone, you've got to kick and scream. And it's like she's sort of willing you to paint a picture of a life lived fully and without restraint. So if you think about being in functional freeze, you've made yourself so small. Maybe you even feel like you don't exist. Perhaps you feel like you're invisible. But you've had to do that to survive. So it's not your fault, but you can sort of become the flower and bloom where you're planted. So yeah, I've said, I'm not sure. I don't think you need to be aggressive in your approach to living wild-heartedly. You simply make a conscious decision to follow your heart. Like if you say to yourself in your conscious mind, I'm going to follow my heart. I'm going to heal from this. I'm going to, whatever it is. If you set that intention, then you can, you know, the rest of you will follow suit, hopefully. But I also said, like, I think you're more resilient than you know yourself to be. Most trauma survivors are. And then I've gone on to talk about my new account, which is called The Intuitive Writer. Substack is a platform for writers and creatives to create long-form content, communities of like-minded souls, and also get paid for their work. As a subscriber to my monthly newsletter, I've just seen a typo there, you'll continue to hear from me for free, but there is a chance to become a paid member if you keep reading. So what will I write about? So I'm writing on this platform because I am going to just send out my normal free newsletter, but then behind a paywall is going to be more juicy, controversial subjects like the estrangement, like, you know, that the healing stuff, the inner child, all of that. And if it's behind a paywall for a community, then I'm hoping that people will realise that I will hold that space for us, but also that you might feel more like you want to contribute. The other reason why I've moved on to this platform is because what I notice with my content is that people love it and they're consuming it and they're clicking on it. They click on my newsletter, they read my blogs, they listen to the podcast, but they don't take action because they are functional freeze responders. I truly believe that, really, after so much investigation, I truly believe that. And so I think that if they want to consume the content, that's fine. Then I still get an energy exchange from that. I still get a payment. I mean, I think it's about £6 a month or £60 a year. It's minimal, but I get something, not nothing. And I think creatives should be rewarded for their work. I think anyone who's creative on making content is a creative person. And it's, you know, it takes of someone, it takes of their energy. You know, you don't, well, you do if you go to the library, but you don't get books for free, do you? You don't get paintings for free. Like, it's a very old myth that creatives, starving artists, isn't it? That creatives should do everything for free. Like, if you're a healer watching this and you feel guilty about taking money, or you're doing energy swaps for treatments, or don't put a price on it and get paid for what you do. What you do brings value and changes people's lives, and you deserve to be paid for that. You absolutely do. So I'm going to be writing about ranty posts, probably from my inner teenager who has a strong sense of justice. I'm mostly disgruntled about how the online world F's up our emotional well-being, and I want to talk about how we can still happily exist in that space while taking care of our lovely sensitive selves. So we're going to pull some self-care cards in a minute. I also have a whole coaching package, which is called self-care pocket coaching. So you can do 30 days with me and get yourself into a self-care routine. And probably during those 30 days, you will come into a freeze response, because you putting yourself first will cause your inner child to have a panic, because that's not what she's used to doing. And then you might go into a freeze, you might go into fight, flight or fawn, but you're probably going to go into a freeze, I would imagine. So then if you're doing it with me, then I can co-regulate you. So I worked with a lady before and she got triggered while we were working together. And so then I just switch on the voicemail. Using my voice and knowing what to say and helping you keep safe brings you back up to safety again. Generous encouragement on your healing path. I'm your biggest cheerleader and I have so much lived experience and wisdom to share. Honest, raw and heartfelt articles about recovering from childhood trauma, painful family connection and estrangement. You are not alone. Snippets from a new self-help book that I'm writing. The working title is called The Cocoon. I hope to ground the therapeutic process in reality and give you the courage to prioritise your healing. You are so important and your needs matter. I've just spotted another typo. This is good, isn't it? It's like I'm proofreading my own work. I'm not triggered by that anymore. That used to really trigger me when I used to see like stuff go out with loads of mistakes in. Now I'm just like, oh, well, people know what I'm trying to say. Advice, often unsolicited, about how to stay connected with your authentic self, how to trust the voice of your intuition, and how to thrive as a highly sensitive in this crazy world we live in. I will write inspirational prompts for your journal from my trusty oracle and tarot card decks. So I am going to do posts behind the paywall, which will be readings. I'll probably pick a deck and do a reading for the month like I've been doing on here, but I'll do it specifically for my membership. At some point when life calms down, when I won't be doing these 3 jobs all the time. Hopefully in September I will be able to cut down the amount of part-time work I'm doing. That's the plan anyway. But at some point when life calms down, I plan to open an intuitive writers cafe for members so we can all keep writing to heal together. And it won't be on Zoom. I found another platform for us to do it on, and it's really lovely. So that's exciting. It says, you're all welcome. Some posts will be public and free, but whilst this is a living, breathing piece of work or art, because it's creative, some of it will be kept safe behind a paywall. Who knows, I may even publish it one day. I probably will be posting with the intent that this is making a book in some way, I think, the paywall content. Because also it will make me publicly accountable for my writing. And I will be committed to that. Sometimes I hope my words will bring comfort, sometimes laughter, and help make sense of the madness. We're all in this together. So if that appeals, I'll put the link in for my Substack below, and you're welcome to join me. You'll probably see me less and less on social media. I like coming on here to chat to you, but the Instagrams and the Facebooks, I'll probably post if I remember or I've got the energy to share that a new Substack post has come up. But I really don't think those places are happy, healthy places to hang out for a number of reasons, and that's a video for another day. Right, let's do some cards. So we've got this beautiful self-care wisdom cards with Cheryl Richardson. The artwork is phenomenal. Oh, just dropped all of my synchronicity cards on the floor. Well, they're asking to be used as well, so we might have a look at those today, because they've all just fallen at my feet as if to say, we've got something to say to you. Okay, I hear you. Oh no, they're still falling on the floor. Right, let's have a look at these self-care cards. I absolutely love Cheryl Richardson's work. If you haven't come across her before, I highly recommend that you check her out. She's written a brilliant book called The Extreme Art of Self-Care. It's phenomenal. Right. So, for those people that are watching, what do they need to know about self-care, please? Show us what we need to know about self-care at this time. How is your self-care? Is it something you prioritise? Do you have rituals and routines in place? Is it something that you do for a while and then fall off the wagon and think, oh, I'm back here again? I think we can be a little bit on off with it depending on what's going on in our lives. See, these cards are not as chatty. Those cards are more chatty, but I do want to show you the artwork. Ah, here we go. Oh, look. Beautiful. Happiness. So on the back it says, your thinking will either make your happiness or take your happiness. You choose. So this is interesting because it's saying your thoughts are choices. I'm going to put a different perspective across because I don't necessarily think that's true. So let's say you've been triggered into a freeze response. Automatically, your inner critic is going to fire up when you're triggered, right? So unless you're aware of the thoughts you're having, unless you're aware that you've got an inner critic, then it's not a choice, is it? And so I think in the past, we've always taught people to think a different thought, think happy thoughts, pick an affirmation. But if you're in functional freeze, you need to focus on the nervous system first. You need to focus on grounding and resetting the energy, the nervous system. So maybe co-regulating and bringing yourself up out of freeze into fight or flight, back up into safety with another person. But also you have to be willing to let that other person in. So if it's hard to trust someone, and I'm thinking of that because these two people are like head to head. They look like they're opposing. They don't look like they're connected and trusting. So you have to be able to trust someone to let someone in. And remember what we said about being in functional freeze? that people and dangers are synonymous. So that's going to be really hard. And that's why when you work with someone who's trauma informed, someone like me, I know how to take it really, really slowly and expand your window of tolerance so that you feel safe. I mean, at some point you are going to get triggered, because those triggers do need to be activated. Triggers are always invitations to heal. So I remember someone writing to me, I think it was last year, saying, my therapist has triggered me and I'm thinking of leaving them. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is your opportunity with a safe trauma-informed therapist. You go to the therapist and you say, when you said this last week, I heard this and it made me feel like this. But that takes a lot of courage, and that's a vulnerable share, isn't it? So happiness. Also, what does happiness mean to you? What do you prioritize in your life? What makes you happy? What lights you up? What brings you joy? Obviously, writing and creativity is my jam, which is why I've set up my Substack. So I also think the cards are saying, focus on what makes you happy. Don't wait around for people to wake up from their sleepy freeze response and come to you for coaching. And actually, they might not even come to me for coaching. They might just use me as an online educational resource, and they might find their own therapist, and that will be fine. It doesn't need to be me. But if you're going to learn from me, then it would be nice to know that you're here, or I'd like to meet more of you. I'm sure you're a lovely bunch, but I wouldn't know because I don't know who's here and who's not here. All right, I've said enough. My inner critic's come in now and said, stop talking. But I feel like it needs to be said. And I have said it in so many ways, but I suppose I haven't seriously addressed it and offered a solution. And I feel like I have a duty of care to do that as someone who's role modelling healthy relational behaviour. Anything else we need to know about self-care? Oh, we've got a couple here. Yeah. Oh. We've got listen. People start to heal the moment they feel heard. And being heard means we feel understood, which means we feel seen, right? But if you've got functional freeze, being seen is effing scary. And that goes with this other card, shine. Because if you're going to shine, you need to be seen. You need to show up and authentically be you. Don't dim your light. The world needs your unique talents and gifts. Shine brightly. I also think this is asking you to listen to your body. So when you dissociate, when you freeze, you come out of the connection with your body and you're not listening to yourself. The voice of your inner critic is just shame, guilt and fear. And it's all BS. None of it's true. It's internalized programming. It's conditioning from your childhood. Those voices don't belong to you. Ask yourself, whose voice is that? Whose voice is that? Oh, it's that teacher at school. Oh, it's granddad. Oh, it's mum. Oh, it's dad. And that's their fear and their guilt and their shame, which has been projected onto you. So it's really helpful to identify those thoughts. Oh, old lady groaning. Oh, why is it when you get to a certain age when you bend down? Oh, right. So it's saying your thoughts are choices, but I think what it's saying is we need to become more aware of what we're telling ourselves in our head. And is that the voice of our higher self, or is that the voice of fear, guilt or shame? And shine. Shine on. Do you like that song? Right, so which one, tell me in the comments below, which one of these cards speaks to you the most? Happiness, listen or shine? So the listen one is also making me think about my recent experience. For 10 years, I didn't listen to the voice of my intuition, which was saying, do something for you, put yourself first. I just buried and lost myself in work, which is workaholism, it's addiction, it's a coping strategy. I feel now that I'm doing these part-time jobs, it's less intense than what I was doing before. It's physically knackering and energetically draining. It's a different kind of tiredness. But I think eventually I will expand my window of tolerance, and that will help me be in the world, not just of the world. What's on the bottom of the deck here? Yeah, so words again, look. So it's an invitation. The words you speak are an invitation to life, a request to bring energy into form. Choose your words wisely. Yeah, how do you yourself talk? How do you talk to yourself? Do you talk to yourself like a small child, like you would a best friend? Are you as kind to yourself as you are to everyone else in your life? Or are you highly critical? Again, that's that inflamed inner critic. Are you critical and judgmental of yourself? So I was at therapy last week and celebrating something with my therapist, some good news, and we were celebrating. And then like minutes later, I then so I gave with one hand and took with the other. Now that's one of my parents that does that. So I was able to celebrate myself, which is the first, that's positive. But then 5 minutes later, I started to spiral, and it's shame that makes you do that. It started to take that joy, take that success, take that achievement away from me. I couldn't stay with those positive feelings, probably because my inner child didn't feel safe enough to let that in. So yeah, so let's pull some of these synchronicity cards to go with our self-care cards, and then we'll wind it up for today. But I just wanted to come online and say hi, and let you know what I'm doing, really. Oh, these are in a right old mucking fuddle. Hold on. Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still coaching. I'm still doing private readings. I very much want to be here. I love my job. I love teaching. I love learning. I love channeling messages. I love sharing. Sharing is part of my play personality. If you watch the interview that I did with Sinead on my HSP Life about your play personality, sharing, I get so excited, like, oh, you must. Oh, I tell you what I want to share about with you today. I have started drinking. I'm not a doctor, so, don't take my advice as a given. I've started drinking apple cider vinegar diluted with water in the morning, just a tablespoon. Mouth tastes like a fish and chip shop, let's be honest. But I've lost weight. I think what it does is it breaks down, I think it breaks down the carbs differently. Anyway, whatever it is, it doesn't taste very nice, but it works. And so when I discover things, because I'm such an experiential learner and I love trying out new things, like I'm quite adventurous. And then when they're successful or they're new or different, I'm like, oh, let me tell you about this. Well, because I think I'm being helpful, I suppose. Right, what goes with happiness? Storm. Woo there, mama. Storm. I wrote a poem about the storm. There's a whole video on this channel about the storm, which for me is representative of the chaotic environment that I grew up in, which I have internalized. So until I get comfortable with my own inner storm, I'm going to continue to wrestle with that. So your thinking will either make your happiness or break your happiness. So for me, that's what I'm saying. When you're triggered, those thoughts don't feel like choices. But if you can recognize in your body, do you know what the signs are when you're triggered? You normally feel small, helpless, powerless, overwhelmed. If you're going into freeze response, you'll lose your voice. You'll lose your ability to speak up for yourself. Your throat chakra is connected to your solar plexus down here, which is your point of power. And it's almost like someone's cut off the connection. So part of the healing is to bring those two chakras back into alignment energetically. So again, when you get that negative voice inside your head, it isn't yours. It's internalized conditioning from your childhood. And the thing to do is not think happy thoughts or say affirmations till you're blue in the face. Is to regulate your nervous system, get back in the body. Manage the storm in here. Don't worry about what's going on out there. You can't do anything about that. Right, what goes with listen? loss. Some of you are going through massive losses at the moment. I think we're all carrying grief from in our post-COVID era. I think we've all lost a lot during COVID. We're also not going to go back to life how it was pre-COVID. Times are changing. We are in the middle of a storm. You know, there's a financial crisis going on. There's all sorts of weird shit going on in the world at the moment. So maybe you need to talk to someone about what your fears are, what you've lost. Be honest about your feelings. Loss brings such a range of feelings because there's lots of stages to loss. I mean, there's anger, there's denial, there's bargaining. The final stage is acceptance, but we don't do them in order. We kind of jump about, and grief is messy, but we're all carrying grief. Like every time a chapter of your life ends and you start a new one, you're grieving. So like me, like starting these jobs and having to go out and leave the flat, I'm coming out of my cocoon. There's grief with that because the old me that lived in here and healed and created this as a safe home, parts of her and her coping strategies need to die so that I can go on to be the next iteration of myself, as it were. Does that make sense? Right, what goes with shine? Shine on. Isn't there a song by Take That called Shine? Let it shine. It's the Morrison's advert, isn't it, for those of you in the UK? Other supermarkets are available. What goes with shine, please, Spirit? Oh, we love that one. Thank you very much. The Shaman. I am drawn to the stars in the sky. So the shaman is the alchemist, is the healer, transmutes pain into lessons, integrates losses and pain, or integrates the losses and the learnings from expressing the pain back into the body. But I'm drawn to the stars in the sky. I think those of us who've been through the darkness have got the ability to shine brightness, but it's something we're very scared of. I'm talking from personal experience there. Again, because it goes back to that danger and people are synonymous. If I shine... So you may have been in a family system where it wasn't safe to shine because you were compared to a sibling, or maybe you had a parent who was jealous or a parent who competed with you, and therefore you felt like you couldn't upset them. They weren't adults, they were children. The parents, I mean. You don't compete with your own children. You're not threatened by your own children's brilliance. In fact, as a parent, you'd want to nurture and encourage it, wouldn't you? So actually, if you're being your own inner parent, you are going to be encouraging yourself to shine with lots of compassion and lots of encouragement, lots of positive words. Those of you who've done my inner child work will know about the well done exercise. So after everything you do, you unload the dishwasher, you make your bed, you make a cup of tea. After every little thing you do, you say, well done, Lisa. Use your name if you can, because that's more powerful. Well done, Lisa. Say it out loud. Notice how that feels in your body. Start to let that in. You will feel a bit uncomfortable at first. Right, what goes with invitation? Oh, we love that one. Journey. Oh, look at the stormy seas. Yeah, so look, you're going from the storm to calm waters, and you're going to be able to sail across those waters. You're not going to get whipped up in the storm. And that's all from regulating your nervous system. And yes, it doesn't feel like there's a storm raging inside you when you're in freeze response, because you've totally checked out from all of your feelings. You've cut off from them. But there is a storm raging inside of you. And that's frightening for you. So yeah, part of this journey is being able to talk to yourself with compassion, with love and kindness. Absolutely. Isn't it? Isn't it? Well, I hope that was helpful for today. That's a long one, but as always, I'd like to hear your comments and thoughts. If you made it to the end of the video, please drop me a purple heart in the comments below if you feel so inclined. and give this video a like and share it with anyone else who needs to see it. If you know any highly sensitive people or empathic people or creatives or introverts that are going through a hard time and they're looking for their tribe, they're looking for a supportive community, then we've got you. All right, everyone. All right, I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye for now.